In the 90s, Playmates Toys made the deepest line of Star Trek action figures in history. My name's Keith, and I'm a collector working towards owning all 284. I've been a Trek fan for almost 35 years, and most people are sick of me talking about it. But somehow I've convinced my old friend Mike to review them with me on Look at My Star Trek Toys! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Look at My Star Trek Toys. I'm very excited. We have not one, not two, but 3 consecutive episodes commemorating the mothership of them all, the original series. I've had a backlog of amazing original series figures, and here we are. We're going to look at them for the next 3 weeks, unless we have some breaking news, not necessarily for you in the real world, but for us at Look at My Star Trek Toys. We have confirmed from Playmates Toys we will be shipped out reviewer copies, hopefully in August, that we will be reviewing and putting up as the instant we get our hands on those figures. We will be doing complete full reviews of the new Playmates line. I can't wait. Can you wait, Mike?
I also can't wait, Keith. We've established ourselves the slightest bit of foot. Now, I don't know if you were, because I was. Last week during Comic-Con, we had people that were sending out all kinds of Instagrams of sneak peeks of the upcoming figures. So we got sort of our first impressions there, but we're going to get them in hand. So excited. And it speaks well for the future of the show if we can actually get things in advance and break some news. And if not, guess what? We're just going to geek out because
we're going to do it
awesome
anyway
for us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. We'll do a full unboxing. We'll do it up. So as you would expect that we would. Before we get into these figures, I just want to quick remind everybody. I know it's the annoying part. We're going to do a little commercial. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit the notifications, get your cat to subscribe. Every subscriber helps us grow the channel. Very, very, very helpful. And the other people who are helpful are our patrons, which you can join on patreon.com/K&M. And on there, you get all sorts of really cool stuff, behind the scenes stuff. You get AMAs, we have bonus episodes. You can watch Mike watch Deep Space Nine, and we're also there. You can just chat with us, ask us questions directly. It's super fun over there, and you can join these fine people that Mike will introduce.
Brian Kaufman, Casey Clark, Cloud Lover, 6ix9ine, Jorge Navoa, The Mysterious Ann, Alan Zimmerman, CRM Productions, Charles Babbage, and of course, Playmates Toys.
Playmates Toys are technically a patron. Well, you know, they say
shipping and handling, if not withheld.
Shipping and handling. The toys are in the mail, or will be soon. So, very, very excited about that. So, lots of cool things coming up. When we started the show, this was just going to be a little show about 30-year-old action figures, but we're going to have brand new baby, the new car smell action figures in our hands. Can't wait. But you want to know what does not have a new car smell?
Oh no, my picture that's just gonna the focus.
Mike just beamed out.
Oh, everything about that was golden.
Yeah. Mike is obsessed with rechecking the focus on his camera, and every time it does, it takes a dead-eyed picture of him.
My point, Keith, if there is one ever to be made, is that you are in the rare breed, as we embark on a 3-week odyssey of toys, that you're not a huge fan of not only the original series, but you've often said you don't really love Spock, who's like the fan fave.
Well, where are you getting that?
Just offhanded remarks you've made here and there.
Are you just like making stuff up to get me in trouble?
Those things.
No, first off, the thing with Spock is utterly wrong. I love Spock. Spock's the best character on the original series.
I believe it was last week on Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. You say when you're talking about Odo, you've never were like a Spock guy.
No. I didn't say that at all. I said Vulcans.
It was Vulcans. You did say that.
I mean, first off, Spock is a Vulcan technically, but his character growth and development and the performance is very much wider than the narrow bandwidth they give Vulcans usually on the series. So they have their little catchphrases, but like
Guys,
Spock's
Keith said
character
he
is
hates the
very
original series,
interesting.
and he said Spock should never have been on the show. Right in, down below. He says Spock, write him up. And not only that, he said Leonard Nimoy was mean. Keith said it.
Whoa, yeah, wow. So we're it's like the slander episode. What's happening here? Mike, do you need a sandwich?
Dear Keith and Mike, we've decided to not send you anything. Love, Playmates. We
Yeah,
watched
you
your
guys-
latest episode.
I wouldn't even know what you were trying to do, but whatever it was, nobody came out well. Why don't you go take another picture of yourself?
I'm sorry. I'm going through a lot right now.
Mike's very busy. He's got a lot going on. We're chaining a
cramming.
bunch of episodes together. We're cramming before he leaves to do his show. All right. So before we make yet another unsuccessfully awkward transition, why don't we dive into some of these figures from the original series, starting with you know how Picard has his casual outfit? He's got his Picard again with his his jacket and his vest and all that kind of stuff. Did you
His
know that
Picard
Kirk,
leisure wear, if you will.
his leisure wear? Did you know that Kirk originated the leisure wear?
Oh yeah, well he's got the carpet on the ground. He might as well just get his little stocking foots in there.
The shag carpeting everywhere.
Just
well,
barefoot Kirk.
you know what? So we did 67 episodes of this show, and it's been
Two
great.
more,
Thank
and we
you
round
so
it
much.
off. All right.
Oh my God!
Let's
All
check
right,
it out.
so we are doing figure number 16031. Kirk in his casual green wraparound.
Ooh, okay.
First impressions, Michael.
Yes, you better. That's my. You better work, Kirk.
I think we just killed Mike. Oh, it's too much
Oh,
Shatner.
I don't know why "You Better Work, Kirk" is my new favorite thing that I've ever said, but I stand. I stand by it. Listen,
So
green.
hey, we get punchy once we've done a couple episodes. This is the first episode we're doing today.
It's
We
true.
can't be punchy yet.
I'm punchy. Keith, not only do I love the green for some reason, it really pops there, but there's something about his casual hunch, and I'm not even making like light. There's something about it that feels lived in. It feels active. It's not as stiff as sometimes the characters are kind of very non-lived in. This feels great. I love the lines in his forehead. I think it's a cool figure. It's one of my favorite Kirks we've seen, I think. What's with
Well,
the
you know-
sideways emblem down there?
It's just look, if you're wearing a wraparound, you need lots of things that sort of strap in. Otherwise, you're gonna be popping out at things, and nobody wants that. But I think you're right with Shatner. I think it is a captain's prerogative to be casual in the body language where no one else really can, right? So that, and because if it's inappropriate, it's a military sort of a strike like thing. You've got to be up front. But the captain, he's in charge. He can chill out. He can relax. He can goof off. And that was something that Shatner was very good at. So Mike, you say you like the green, yeah?
I do.
Did you know
I did.
that? No doubt that the gold that he normally wears
Is
you know,
also
the-
green?
same color. All of the gold uniforms that you see on screen are actually this color of green, but came out gold after color timing and in the lights. And so
Okay.
we have grown to accept that Kirk is in the gold, in the yellow, he's in the whatever, but actually it was this avocado green. And this stayed avocado green, apparently, because it's a different fabric, which reacted differently to the lighting and the color timing.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is where there's always these debates about starting Next Generation. Are the science division uniforms blue or green or teal? And it really has a lot to do with the color timing and the lights. And color timing essentially is how do you adjust the colors in post-production and, you know, make the blues blue and the red and this, that, the other. And you can do a lot of changing of the colors there. But Mike, did you know that there's another consideration they had to make with the colors?
I didn't know that.
That it wouldn't even occur to us today. But in 1966, when this show started, most people still had black and white televisions. So when they did their costume design, their set design, their makeup design, they had to factor in, how does this look in black and white? And does it bleed in? How does it work? So, which is why a lot of the sets before color television, if you saw the actual set, they'd look ridiculous with the colors, but it was all about to pop in black and white. So a lot of interesting sort of production angles here with this weird casual wraparound deal.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It makes a ton of sense, actually. And
Yeah.
I think also I wanted to point out that check out our other episodes, obviously, but I can't look at any original series figures now, Keith, without thinking about that original series bridge we saw on the displays episode.
Yeah. Yeah, our custom displays episode. Yeah, check it out. I think it's 3dtrekker.com. It's amazing. And you can see in our feed somewhere. Really cool. This would look great on that. And you know what else is cool? I actually have this one in the box. So if we hop over to Toy Cam, we can see what this looked like in the box, in the actual box. So I have the picture of it, but here it is blurry and moving as opposed to the nice clean image that we had there. But what I like about this is this had the painted choking hazards.
Oh, wow,
which
cool.
Look so much better when they're even just black with a little bit of paint. It adds a lot. This is from the mixed series. Out there came with the Skybox card, as you would imagine. And he's got his stand back there, and you can see what was coming out. So this is the year they put out the 1701s. So you can see, and Grand Nagus Zek. There's a figure for Zek, Mike. You haven't seen it yet, but we will get to it. Yeah, Kirk in his casual attire. Here he is. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think he wore it that much. Original series fans, correct me, but it was I don't know how often he wore it.
Give me those early Mr. Rogers vibes with that green sweater.
That's right, because like to take that off, he's gonna like unbutton like a Velcro thing and like reveal it like a muumuu. I don't know. It's a I could totally imagine like Kirk like, hold on, lady, and then just. It doesn't go over your head. It's a wraparound. Okay, so there it is. Let us. What do you say? We see another Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't have always worn this grease sweater, Keith. So what did he wear? Like, what did they flirt with in the beginning?
Well, in the very beginning, we saw figure number 16087, Kirk from Where No Man Has Gone Before. And this is an interesting episode and an interesting uniform because this was essentially the second pilot of Star Trek. Now, I think we've talked about it before, and everybody watching this already knows, but they filmed the first pilot, The Cage, and then it got rejected. And so they ended up filming a second one, and this is from the second one. So these uniforms that they're wearing, I mean, if you see the screen version of it, it's very odd because it looks like the neck was worn out already. It looked like a hand-me-down from something else.
Right.
It looks like one of my shirts where all the neck is stretched out. But these were the first uniforms that they used. So very simple. It was obviously a low-budget show. They hadn't had time to really develop the uniforms yet. Interestingly, even though this was the second pilot, and essentially the first pilot that aired, it aired third in order. They decided to air another one first before they did this one. So this figure is rare in Playmates history because you can only get this figure as a tie-in if you bought the shuttlecraft. the Galileo shuttlecraft. So it was not available by itself as a figure or in a box set of figures. You had to bring it. You had to get it with the ship. And unless I'm wrong, I think it's the only one that worked that way.
Did it come with the cool blaster he's got here?
I do not believe so. I do not believe it came with the cool blaster, though that would have been awesome. Yeah, I mean, the figure itself, it's okay. I'm just curious as where's my wraparound? There he is. If it's the same head sculpt, which I believe it is the same head sculpt as the wraparound, and probably the same head sculpt as the standard one that came in the box set. Yeah, I mean, the legs are pretty standard. You do not have the thigh articulation that you're used to in some of the later figures, but at least you do have the elbow articulation. And, you know, it's an interesting piece of sort of Star Trek trivia as they sorted out what the uniforms were going to be over the course of the first season. It wasn't established right from the very beginning.
Right.
And I think I can definitely see how they improved on the uniforms as they moved forward. But you want to know what's missing on the figure, Mike?
Keith, what's missing on the figure?
Well, the rank insignia on the wrist.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it on the screenshot there. And the figure itself did not get it. So
We saw the shuttlecraft already, didn't we?
we saw the Next Generation shuttlecraft.
Oh, okay.
I do not, as of yet, own the Galileo shuttlecraft yet. So when I get my hands on one, we will review it. And
We'll
perhaps
reach out to our good friends at Playmates.
I don't think they're going to give me the 30-year-old one. I don't think they have them sitting around. It's funny, like, you work for a company like that, everybody imagines you have, like, stacks and stacks of your old merchandise sitting in a warehouse somewhere. And at the Theatrical Industries, a publication that I work at, people are like, hey, can you get me a copy of, like, the June 1971 issue? And I'm like, we don't even have last week's issue. It's gone. Right.
Yeah.
Like, do not have these things kicking around. But, you know, if you do Playmates, by all means, send them along. So that is Kirk from the pilot. What do you say we see some more from not the second pilot, but the first pilot? And that is figure number 6448, Captain Christopher Pike. That's right, it is the original captain of the Enterprise. This was the original pilot of the series, which did not get approved or picked up. However, the footage from it was reused in a subsequent episode, a two-parter, where they went back and explored what happened in the cage. So this is Jeffrey Hunter, who was obviously Captain Pike the first time around, but that was the only Star Trek he ever did. He was going to be the captain. It didn't pan out. And you can see, you know, perhaps Shatner was wearing Jeffrey Hunter's.
He just ripped it off. He was so
his
PO'd.
hand-me-down. Like, Shatner's head is way bigger than Hunter's, maybe, and busted the collar opening it up. Yeah, so what's interesting about the Captain Pike and the Jeffrey Hunter story is that when they brought it back for the Menagerie, the episode of the original series where they incorporated the footage from the original pilot, this is where we had the Captain Pike in his wheelchair after the horrible accident. He was sort of mute and couldn't speak or move. But Jeffrey Hunter did not come back to play Pike again, which is probably why they put him through all of that, so as to make it a little bit less obvious that it's a different actor. It was actually Sean Kenny who played Captain Pike in the Menagerie, which means that, unless I'm wrong, Captain Pike has had more actors play him, more different actors play him than any other Star Trek character out there. I know many of them have had three different actors play them, including, like, Picard had 3 actors play Picard in the Next Generation. You had the kid Picard, you had the 20s Picard, and the current Picard. But with Captain Pike, you had Jeffrey Hunter in the cage. You had Sean Kenny in the menagerie. Currently, we have Anson Mount playing him, and in Disco and the new show, and Bruce Greenwood played him in the Kelvin era. So there are 4 different actors who have played that character, which I believe is a record. Correct me below, because I'm sure I'm not thinking of something, but I believe that's the record. The only other character that I know has been played by more than 2 actors in the same series is Zial on Deep Space Nine. Mike, you have not met Zial yet.
No.
But you're going to meet not 1, not 2, but 3 different actors playing Zial over time, as if we wouldn't notice. Mike, any thoughts about the figure itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little generic, right? That's my feeling about it. It feels a little generic. In fact, the thing that kept popping to my head was, it looks a little bit like, I'm trying to download it now so I can show you. Let's see. Yeah, what's his name from Seinfeld? Putty.
Yes.
Do you see it?
I do see it, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's interesting. The facial sculpt on this feels very rudimentary.
Yeah.
And the hair does, and like he doesn't have a neck really, it just goes straight down. His head is really thin and long. It almost looks like a reused head from a different line of toys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It feels a little generic, like it's like a.
I would not be able, if I saw this in a bin, I probably wouldn't notice it's a Star Trek figure for a while. Not based on the uniform, which is obviously that's what they wore. Interestingly, he does have the rank insignia that the Kirk figure did not around his wrist. It's an odd oversight, but there it is. But the facial sculpt doesn't look like. Yes, it actually looks so much more like him than I even thought. Wow. I don't think that's probably his favorite picture he's put out there, but
No, it's just the one I Googled first, so my apologies.
but yeah, I mean with Jeffrey Hunter, he has a
Patrick
much more
Warburton,
distinctive
that's his
face than that. Patrick Warburton, yeah. Like Jeffrey Hunter is a much better looking guy than this
Yes.
figure. And yeah, so whatever. It's not a great figure, but I'm glad that it's represented. I'm glad that we have a Pike figure, because I don't think we knew until to the last 20 years how important Pike was to Trek history, and certainly now. I mean, what Anson Mount is doing with it, it's extraordinary. So there's Captain Pike. He's got a figure, because might as well have one, right?
Yeah.
So who else we have a figure for from the cage, from the unaired pilot, and that is of course my good friend, the kindest man I know, Leonard Nimoy, 16038 Spock from the cage. Mike, you cannot slander me.
Okay.
And here is the Spock figure from the cage. You'll note that it has the same early uniform design with the horribly stretched out and worn out neck already in the pilot. Like, what was going on? I would love to know. Talk to somebody in 1965. These must have been reused from something.
Yeah, it shouts like when you're doing a low budget production, and they just pull a bunch of costumes from the costume shop that have been worn for about 20 years by different. I mean, they just kind of sort of fit it to you, sorta, and they just stitch your name in the back, and you hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who have not done that before, in stitched in the back is usually a nameplate of who wore it before. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're doing a relatively common show or a common type of costume, you'll have 6 or 7 or 8 names scratched out in all of that. So it's always fun to look back and see if any celebrities wore your costume before you stank it up with your flop sweat on stage. But yeah, I mean, and I know that who was it? I forgot one of the cast members wore a Voyager, wore Brent Spiner's shoes for the first season of Voyager. I think it was Garrett Wang. Anyway, so I feel like this was like a costume shop remnant because it looks like it's been washed 40 times. It does not look anywhere near where we would eventually get with the
I'm sorry, this is completely not apropos to, but you just mentioned Brent Spiner. I heard a great story about him just recently, last week. I'm trying to think, who was the actor from The Godfather just passed away? James Caan.
Yeah.
That they ran into each other on the lot at the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Spiner was in full data. He was doing the full data, and he's going through the line, because he's trying to catch a bite before they go back to shooting. And James Caan just sees him, and he just looks at him and goes, "Work?" Like, it's just so classic. Anyway, that's my story.
Hilarious.
Yep.
Anyway, Brent Spine just put out a novel. It's pretty good. I've been enjoying it. All right, so here's some things about Spock in this episode of The Cage. You can see there's a little bit different hair, a little bit different eyebrows. It's not reflected on the figure. This is the standard Spock head, obviously. But did you know that Spock has emotions in The Cage? Because they hadn't really established that yet. So there's a very jarring piece of footage where Spock smells a flower and beams in this big smile, which is like, what? Which they didn't cut when they re-aired the footage later in the series, which I thought was an odd choice to leave that in without explaining why Spock, ooh, a flower! Because that's not the Spock that we knew. But continuity is the 60s, and also Star Trek is not always great about the continuity.
Well, they're developing a show, and I don't think that they didn't know what it was to become, right? It was like a low budget kind of thing they were throwing together.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
And what's cool to me, at least, is especially the Vulcans and Spock specifically. Forget if you're a Star Trek person or not. Spock is a character that has, just infiltrated pop culture. And there are some very distinctive things about the character's design that everyone knows. And what's cool about this to me is that, early on, clearly, they hadn't developed a lot of that. Like, the hair is a little too, flip and cash. Like you said, the emotions. There's a lot of things that are clearly in works in progress. And I think that's cool. That's the stuff that's fun to me.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to watch the development from a production angle, from as a writer and someone vaguely in this world. It's cool to see all of that develop before our eyes. And in sci-fi, it's a little bit more obvious because they're bigger visual and sort of storytelling things that you're doing. So there it is in the box. You can see what it came with. And the figure itself, again, none of these figures have thigh articulation, so they're a little bit stiff in what they can do. But again, if you're collecting figures from the unaired pilot, you're probably not going to be throwing them to your dog. You're going to be putting them on the shelf, and it looks great on the shelf.
How old is Nimoy there?
I think he was in his early 30s. I could be wrong. Mike's gonna look it up
because he looks. He's way older than us, or younger than us, right?
He's way younger than us, but it was the 60s. People, everyone was like a chain smoker and drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning. People, rode a little harder in the 60s than we did. And also he was wearing, they tried to alter the color of his skin a little bit with the makeup, and a lot of it sort of got lost in the color timing, again, as we were talking about how much the color changed in post-production. And they were, of course, working on film at that point. So, yeah. But there it is. Yeah, Leonard Nimoy basically looked the same age for about 70 years, which is quite a skill for an actor. Do you have an answer, Mike? He's doing math.
No.
1966 minus...
He was 83 when he died, which was... When was that?
All right,
I'm not at my best today, Keith. I'm not at my best today.
Okay, he was born in 1931, so he was 35
Okay.
when the show began. He was such a young man. All right, so let us move forward to our last figure this episode, and that is a figure that I would have shown in our previous episodes about the dress uniforms, but sometimes, speaking of production issues, well, I didn't own it, so it was hard for me to show it on the show. So, but now I do, and that is figure number 16155, Dr. McCoy in the dress uniform. So from the episode Journey to Babel, the we did show some of the other original series dress uniforms. You can check it out in our playlist somewhere below. Maybe I'll link it if I remember, or I might not. We'll see. But you can see here for the original series, the dress uniforms weren't wildly different. We add a little gold trim, and changed the insignia to whatever that is. I'm not exactly sure what it means, but that's like the fancier Delta. But in the original series, the Star Trek symbol that we're so accustomed to was unique to the ship you were on, not to the Federation. By the time Next Generation came around, the comm badge that meant the Federation, not the Enterprise. But back for the original series, the Delta you're seeing there meant Enterprise. And so if you went to a different ship, you'd have the same uniforms, but with a slightly different symbol. So I don't know how that applied to the dress uniform. So, folks, if you know, leave a comment below. I'm always happy for new information to fill me in. Mike, any thoughts and feelings about this figure?
It's difficult. It's hard to get DeForest Kelly's face right. We've mentioned it on the other McCoys I've seen, and that's just, maybe it's just the way I view it. It doesn't quite capture him for me. They never have. But that said, I mean, Varner Studios did their best. They got the uniform. I mean, these are what they are, right? I don't think they're gonna leap off the page. It's cool though, and we pay respect. TOS,
Yeah, I actually think it's not a bad DeForest Kelly. Like I think it could be a lot worse, Captain Pike. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I mean, these are figures for the me's of the world, who the completists, the ones who want to have all the uniform variations because they're awesome. All right, folks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little journey back into the origins of the original series. So early, the original series, super fun. We will be back next week with some more original series figures. If you're still here, do us a favor, give us a like, give us a subscribe. There's a button right over there, probably right above where it says Mike and Deglio, where you can subscribe right here. Tell your friends to come subscribe. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/KM. Get all sorts of fun bonus stuff and help produce the show. And it's a lot of fun for us. It's also a lot of work. So certainly appreciate your support. So we will see you back here next week with some more original series fun. Till then, this has been Look at My Star Trek Toys!